comment?
I don't see anyone from the public.
No one
Yes,
from-
Mr. Chairman, I guess this was the only way for the public to speak, was to get as a panelist. So I'm just here as a citizen.
Right. Well, no, public comment is
May I
anybody who wants to
speak?
comment.
Yes, I'm here for the public participation.
Yes, you have 5 minutes.
Okay, I'll take less time. Good evening. My name is Diane Lauricella. I've lived in Norwalk for, oh my God, 35 plus years. I first came to Norwalk as a student intern to look for pollution sources up the Norwalk River. I eventually ended up working as an investigator with the Department of Environmental Protection, and I found the Kellogg Deering Wellfield polluter across the street on Main Avenue, Elinco. I went on to stay in the department until I went to work for the private sector for several years and then started my own little company. This is on background for some of the guests that we have today, Mr. Pillay especially. I stood shoulder to shoulder with members of Wilson Point over 10 years ago, and I organized the efforts of the community around Wilson Point as well as Wilson Point. We did a great job as a organized group to stop the Galt oil tank farm that was going to be placed at the end of Martin Luther King Drive. That was a great effort. But I'm here today because I am concerned as a citizen. I think it's very important for us to welcome citizen observations and discover them, research them, and if necessary, test. This is a different board than the board I worked with back in the days of the oil tank farm. So I'm hoping that the Wilson Point community, who has voiced opinions that I heard in my observation of videos, everyone will just take a breath and realize the role of the Shellfish Commission. I was one of the first harbor management commissioners under Bill Collins back in the 80s. Again, I was much younger then, and I helped write the initial harbor management plan. So the thing is, the reason I wanted to speak tonight is just to encourage the Shellfish Commission to do what they have the authority to do and the responsibility to do. And as well, the Water Quality Committee and the Harbor Management Commission is to look at water quality and see how we can find solutions. And from those solutions, we can make sure that everyone is treated the same, but that we welcome and not excoriate citizen input. It sends a chill to the citizenry when anyone is called out for voicing concerns. So I welcome the discussion tonight, and I thank you for letting me speak, Mr. Chairman, and I thank this Shellfish Commission for all the good work they do, especially in the fact that we have a natural shellfish bed in terms of Wilson Point area. I used to live at Village Creek for several years and help them with their septic system issues. So this is a new discussion we're having about how to monitor and keep track of that type of potential pollution. Thank you, and have a nice night.
Okay, just want to say, anybody that complains, we have to follow up on it. Whether anybody believes it or not, we still have to follow up on it. Is there anybody from Wilson Point that wants to make a comment?
Yes. Hi, my name is Mitch Pillay. May I comment?
Yes,
Hi.
you have 5 minutes.
Good evening, commissioners. I probably won't need even that much. I certainly do appreciate the comments that were previously made. You know, appropriate comments made about real issues are important to investigate. You all have our official response. I'm sorry, Chairman Johnson, your email bounced back. You know, if someone could provide me with a better email, I know Tom Closter did receive our response as well. But basically, this is a 4.5-year campaign by an individual to find fault with members of the board and previous boards, and has made several allegations. many comments, and a lot of character assassinations towards members of the board.
Excuse me, may I say something?
Sure.
If it has to do with you people fighting each other, we don't want to know anything about it.
And
Only thing
honestly,
we do is someone complains, we investigate.
Okay.
That is it. That's the
And
end
so-
of it, nothing else.
and so the initial complaint that you received was that work was done without permits. You've confirmed with all authorities having jurisdiction that Wilson Point did in fact notify and reach out to various government agencies. We're told that no permits were required and proceeded with the work. An individual then complained and has been trying to find fault for 4.5 years that permits were required.
Okay,
You've
but
received- Hold
if
on,
we
let me finish.
test, if
Hold on.
we test, you won't have to worry about it.
Sorry, let me finish. You are fully aware that no permits were required. The conversation then changed to there may be sources of pollution. And you're well aware that DEEP's requirements as it relates to pollution are that there has to be a specific occurrence or a specific issue. The items that were discussed by the resident are no different for Wilson Point as it is for any storm drain in the entire city of Norwalk that's not on the black water system. And so in the absence of any wrongdoings or any specific issue, our answer is no, because we've gone through a 4.5 year vendetta, and you guys are listening to, quite honestly, nonsense.
Okay, you can say it's nonsense, but let me put it this way. If
Sir.
we do the test, which eventually we're going to end up doing the test on the water and stuff. If it comes clear, you don't have to worry about anything. You're happy.
Listen, sir,
It'll shut everybody up.
I'm not going to give this individual or this situation any more oxygen. You do not have our permission to come in and test our storm drains. It's a private system. We're not going to be a part of this.
We're not going to check your storm drains. We aren't even going near your storm drains.
Excuse me,
We're
sir.
testing water.
Sir, last week, your draft minutes state something very different, okay? And if you as a group want to develop a citywide approach to getting things better, we're 100% signed on.
We are.
Diane, well, when you have that citywide approach, give me a call. Diane, we were a part of the restoration of the 5-acre estuary, right? Along Wilson Road. That's our estuary. We own it. You're aware of that, right, guys? Okay, we go in and we clean it every year. The city doesn't come in and clean the culverts. We do. The city doesn't come in and remove the garbage that floats in. We do. We take this very personally. And we're really not going to jump in and give oxygen to spurious claims, allegations, and character assassinations. Take a look at the email that I sent. We refute it point by point, line by line. And that's our position. You guys have a lot of hard work to do, and I really appreciate, any volunteer group, right? Just like you're a volunteer group, we're run as a volunteer group as well. We have limited bandwidth. You have real issues, right? You've got the reuse of Manresa as a construction site that has been washed over in 2 big name storms in the last 10 years. What's going to happen if it gets washed over while it's in the middle of being a construction site to build the walk bridge? You haven't discussed it. You're not even involved or engaged in that. What's
we
going to
are.
happen?
We are. We've had meetings with them.
Okay.
Just because the
They've-
public wasn't there, we've had meetings with them.
Okay, so the Upper Norwalk River received an F. I know I read, Joe's response to that. Okay, you have issues there. Let's not go looking for issues where they don't exist. Hi. Okay, so that's kind of where we stand. You know our feelings, you know our official position. And I do want to thank you guys for hearing us out.
You're muted, Pete.
All I can say is we have to investigate everything. We have to. There's no choice. We can't. Even if you say no, we're still going to test the waters. You know what I mean?
You're welcome to test public waters.
Right.
Listen, and by the way, that was kind of something that I came to as a conclusion and a suggestion to the Harbor Commission. But, you know, at the end of the day, you say you have to investigate everything.
We do.
I gave you line by line, and please read it, how the bulk of what she said were character assassinations, misrepresentations, and lies.
Yeah.
And outright lies. So, you know, at some point, I'd like to know how your commission and all the other various commissions and agencies respond to people who make, you know, knowing false statements.
Well, people make statements. We had one statement where we had bad readings coming from a marina. Come to find out, it was a quarter mile up the road. There was a septic pipe going through a street drain. So, you know, we had to investigate. We found it a quarter of a mile away.
Yep.
Now, we were testing that in the water. So what happens is, if we get a bad test in the water, we have to trace to where.
You know,
That's how it works.
sir, you know, Pete, I kind of agree with that.
Right.
The vote that was taken at the last meeting was a little bit different. The discussion at the last meeting was that you were going to come into Wilson Point, test our storm drains, and if we didn't allow you, you were going to have the constable embark and push your way in. That's what was said. It's on tape, right? So as long as you guys have changed and you'll be doing the testing of public waters, and if it comes back to a source, we're going to be the first ones to try and help you find it.
Mr. Pillay, we also mentioned that we always call our agents, our applicants that are involved in a site visit. So if you check the tape, that's there too. I mean, with due respect, just don't mischaracterize that, please.
Listen. Okay, so I've said my piece. You know where we're at. I think we are actually on common grounds. Okay, if you test in the water and there's an
Right.
issue and we trace it back, it's a different story than coming into our association and looking for problems in our drains. Okay?
Only if we're getting bad readings. We don't go and tear people apart or anything. All we do is investigate. If there's a problem, we look for where it is to correct it. We aren't looking to get people arrested or anything like that. We're looking to correct our problems because we care about our shellfish. It's the largest industry in Connecticut.
We care too about our environment. We also, as volunteers, put our resources to just that. Okay, so thank you, gentlemen.
You're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, let's go on to approval of anybody
Hang on.
else want public
Hang on.
comments
Pete,
anymore?
in the notice, there is the yacht club. There are representatives here from the yacht club, and Ms. Jones is also noticed.
Okay.
I can see that she's in the attendee list. And if the moderator could let us know if she would like to speak, the floor would be open to her. But at your discretion, Mr. Chairman, the Commodore is here on the call.
Okay, is that person here?
Yes, I'm Mike Ramsey. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I gotta mute myself. I have kids here.
All right, understandable. So my name is Mike Ramsey. I'm the Commodore at the Norwalk Yacht Club. So I've been a resident of Norwalk for over 20 years. I too, along with Miss Laura Celli, spoke at the hearing at City Hall when we got the Galt tank farm denied permission to relocate right near us. But first off, I want to thank the commissioners for placing us on the agenda. We were frankly surprised at Miss Jones' comments last meeting on May 6th. The substance of her presentation concerning the yacht club is in most cases not accurate, and at the very least, decades outdated and irrelevant. We appreciate the opportunity to rebut those comments and to clarify for the record and bring up facts that she is probably unaware of. I'll discuss the facts that rebut her presentation, and our attorney, Stephen Finn, will go over some of the legal issues for the commission. You should have a copy of our written response was sent to the commission by our counsel. So this is our 127th year located in Norwalk's Wilson Cove, as we were founded in 1894. So we are sailors who love the water. Our members care deeply about the water quality on Long Island Sound. If I could share the screen, I have a few slides to show. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay, so that's just our burgee, our symbol of our yacht club on our house, on our clubhouse. So one of our core values is environmental stewardship. Our kids swim in Wilson Cove, as you can see here at our beach. They swim off our docks and boats, and our junior sailing students regularly capsize their boats to learn how to right them properly. Frankly, it's inconceivable that our members or our board of governors would condone the environmental chaos that was alleged by Ms. Jones. So we've always made various improvements to our facilities over 100 years plus years. We apply for the permits, some are approved and others are denied, but we always adhere to the various requirements. In rare cases, when an inadvertent mistake occurred, the club has quickly ceased that contact. Notwithstanding our compliance, we have had to endure many years of defamatory complaints from Ms. Jones. Her complaints last year resulted in a deep site visit and investigation that showed no substantive violations. Her complaints triggered a zoning inspection that resulted in no violations. Her complaints are without merit, and she is clearly unaware of all the best practices that we follow for environmental damage mitigation. So what I'd like to do is share this with attorney Stephen, the screen with Stephen Finn. He's our club counsel. And Mr. Finn will discuss some of the legal issues regarding the commission. And then I'll be back to rebut some of the more specific allegations of wrongdoing that Ms. Jones has alleged by the club.
Good evening. Thank you, Mike. Maybe you could stop sharing your screen. That might make things a little easier, but I'm going to continue anyway. Thank you. Good evening, members of the commission. For the record, my name is Steve Finn. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Wapsie, Rosenquist, and Kuryansky in Stamford. I'm here on behalf of the Norwalk Yacht Club. My partner, Mike, referred to a letter written to the commission members that was written by my partner, Adam Blank, which I understand was circulated to the commissioners yesterday. And I just want to formally request that that letter become part of the record for tonight's meeting. I am here to address some of the legal issues and legal aspects of Ms. Jones's claims. Specifically, one of her major points is that the allegations of pollution raised by Ms. Jones, one of our major points is that the allegations of pollution raised by Ms. Jones fall under the jurisdiction of the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, DEEP, and not this commission. Ms. Jones herself admits that DEEP has jurisdiction over these claims because she has clearly raised and acknowledged very similar complaints to DEEP. That's where she went first. And having failed to be successful before DEEP, what does she do now? she raises these issues to this commission with all respect, does not have the jurisdiction to entertain her complaints. It is DEEP that has jurisdiction. Again, in other words, having failed to convince DEEP of the merits of her claims, she now seeks a second bite of the apple, perhaps a third bite of the apple from you, asking you to do things that DEEP has refused to do. The insurmountable problem for Ms. Jones is that she was correct. DEEP has jurisdiction over her claims, and with all respect, this commission does not. But I want to get to this issue of testing in a minute, because this commission has the right to test water, and I'll get to that in a second. But I do want to lay out for you that under the Connecticut general statutes, granting the right of local municipalities to have shellfish commissions, and under the Code of Norwalk, from which your authority derives, the specific authority of this commission is limited to the following, and this is set forth in the general statutes where you grant your authority: issuing licenses and setting fees for the taking of shellfish within the waters under city control, designating the quantity and size of shellfish to be taken and the methods of taking, and lastly, to prohibit the taking of shellfish from certain designated areas for periods not in excess of 1 year. So while the commission has charge over the shellfish grounds, a determination or an investigation that a particular entity or a property owner is causing pollution is under DEEP's authority. All right. Now, the Shellfish Commission, just like anybody else, including Ms. Loriselli, including Ms. Jones, has the ability to sample water in local waters and make complaints to DEEP about pollution. But the Shellfish Commission cannot act outside of its delegated authority and does not have investigative and enforcement powers. It does have the right to investigate and take the water quality, take samples, do that. But after that, any positive findings have to be turned over to DEEP for investigation. That is their role, that is their purview as set forth in our statutory scheme. And with some exceptions, the Connecticut Department of Agriculture may have jurisdiction. So again, anyone, including this commission, Ms. Jones, can go out into the harbor and take water samples. And I understand from you, Mr. Johnson, that's your intent, and you're permitted to do that. And you can take those samples to a test lab, which I assume you will do. But neither Ms. Jones nor this commission or any other non-authorized entity can go onto or through private property to access the harbor to test the water. So please do your testing. If you find positive results, please report them to DEEP. We'd appreciate the courtesy of a copy. As Mike mentioned, DEEP's been out to the Norwalk Yacht Club before and has investigated this and found no substantive violations with regard to pollution or anything else for that matter.
Excuse me, may I say one thing to you? You
Sure.
haven't read all that we are capable of by the city of Norwalk. When they formed us, we were to keep our waters clean, and if they're dirty, to find the reason why with the health department. And after that, if something does happen, we do call DEEP, but aquaculture will come first before DEEP does.
Well, I must,
You didn't read the whole thing. All you read was us giving permits out. That's all you read.
So,
Well,
if I may, Counselor Finn, so I would just like to add, the CGS also authorizes a shellfish management plan, which we have and is well documented and is ratified by Norwalk officials. And job one of that shellfish management plan, as ratified by Norwalk officials, as provided in the CGS, is human health. So we can argue the semantics certainly have no intent to be on private property unauthorized. And it seems like Mr. Pillay, you have no objection to us doing testing off-site. And I'd like to also let Commodore Ramsey finish. He had mentioned he has a various points that he'd like to address. And
Yeah, I'm just
I'll-
about.
I'll
I'm
allow
just-
him, I'll allow him to do that before I
Let-
make
I
further
just
comment.
I just have a couple more points. It'll be about another minute or two. I respectfully disagree that your duties can go beyond what the general statutes have authorized shellfish commissions to do. And frankly, I believe there have been discussions with town attorneys regarding the scope, and I don't think they disagree with the summary that was set forth in our letter to the commission or what I've said tonight. But that's probably more a matter for the attorneys. So I'll make that last one more point. And here's, and maybe you can elucidate me on this. So the point should be made that merely testing the water in the harbor would not be useful in determining the source of any claimed pollution, because there are a substantial number of property owners and marinas in the area. Again, there has been no determination by anyone that any pollution has occurred. But if such evidence is found, it is a matter for DEEP to investigate, which has the expertise to determine the source and to enforce Connecticut's environmental laws. And, you know, I think the last point I want to make at this point is that everyone has there are rights to make complaints, and I understand that this commission takes its job seriously, which we all appreciate, but it's the hearing of the same complaints over and over again, where at some point you get the fact where there's no evidence presented of any pollution. If Ms. Jones had come in and say, I have these water samples here, they show pollution, I want you and DEEP to start looking into this, that'd be one thing. But she just raises allegations without any evidence. And if you allow her to repeatedly do that, you're really allowing her to cry wolf without any evidence and wasting a lot of people's time. So I thank you for your attention, and I want to turn it back to Mr. Ramsey, who's going to do another part of the presentation for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. So I'll try to be brief. I just want to rebut 5 points that were in Ms. Jones' PowerPoint presentation that was sent to us as part of the agenda that was presented at the last meeting. The first one I want to talk about is cleaning and painting of the floats. She presented pictures that go back to 2002 to 2008. These things are more than a decade old, in some cases almost 2 decades old. In an attempt to convince the commission that we pollute the sound with bottom paint on our floats. So what I want to say is that our floats, our new floats that we've had for over a decade, are not painted. They haven't been painted in over 10 years. Now, this is a picture of our north dock, and this here, the bottom one, is a picture of our south dock. We have over 32 floats. There's not a single buoyancy device on any of our floats that is painted. And they haven't been painted in over a decade. In addition, Sunrise Scuba from Norwalk comes in and cleans all of our floats in the water every year, especially near the end of the year before we pull them out. So there's no paint on any of the floats, and all the marine matter that grows there is left in the water. This is the best management practice that we know of, and we've talked to DEEP about this. And here's a picture of the floats that go into making these our docks. And you can see this picture here is one of the close-up of the docks in the water. They're just black plastic. There's no paint on them whatsoever. So, and we haven't painted them in over a decade. So the presentation of the old pictures, we think, was just an attempt by Ms. Jones to deceive this commission. Again, we use Sunrise Scuba. The next thing I wanted to point out was she made complaints about our power washing and cleaning of the boats. So again, this is false. Sunrise Scuba cleans all of our club sailboat bottoms on a weekly basis during the commission season. And our power boats are cleaned twice a month. So by the end of the year, when we pull the boats, there's hardly anything on the boats on which to power wash off. This is, again, the best management practice that we know of for keeping marine growth in the sound. Now, we spent over $17,000 on Sunrise Scuba last year, cleaning boats and floats in the water to minimize any environmental damage. When we do power wash, as you can see here, we have to power wash them at the end of the year. This is done right here at our main hoist, and all the wash water flows into this oil water separator catch basin that separates out all the contaminants. This was constructed over 9 years ago. This was not in Ms. Jones's report. The contaminants are regularly cleaned out of the catch basin and stored in drums for proper offsite disposal by a certified waste disposer. Here you can see, this is looking right down into the special contaminant catching device in the catch basin. So, and here are the drums that when we clean out that catch basin, we load any contaminated debris into these drums, and they're hauled either by wind river or island pump and tank and properly disposed. So I think Ms. Jones is clearly uninformed and unaware about our practices for boat cleaning and float cleaning, and about our catch basin and oil water separator for capturing any contaminants. The next thing I wanted to talk about was our pump out. Ms. Jones maintains that we as a club should have a dockside wastewater pump out facility capable of servicing all our boats and our moorings. This is inaccurate. This is not what the regulations state. Connecticut Deep investigated this and determined that we are in compliance with our permits, which state that we have to have a portable emergency pump out system when we store this in a shed in case it's ever needed. So here's the regulation that's in the Norwalk Harbor Management Plan, Chapter 3, Paragraph 7.5.10. All new and expanded marina facilities providing additional boat slips, now we have no boat slips, shall provide convenient on-site vessel waste pump out facilities or demonstrate that readily available and accessible vessel waste pump out capacity exists elsewhere in Norwalk to accommodate their needs. Now, like most clubs, yacht clubs, we use East Norwalk Blue for vessel pump out. So Ms. Jones has probably no idea who East Norwalk Blue is, but every boater in Long Island Sound does. East Norwalk Blue president is Norm Bloom, and he runs a very professional operation at ENB. I'm sure you all know Norm. They serve 30 miles of North Long Island Sound coast from the harbors in New York State to near Bridgeport. Last year, they serviced 60 marinas and yacht clubs and made 3,600 pump outs last year. So in addition to the service by East Norwalk Blue, which is right in Norwalk Harbor, there is a dockside pump out facility at our neighbor, Wilson Cove Marina. And that's just a very short way up Wilson Cove from where we are. So Ms. Jones is wrong that we are required to have a dockside pump out facility, and the Connecticut Deep has agreed with us. Lastly, second to last, I want to talk about our septic system. Ms. Jones went on to allege that our septic system for our clubhouse is inadequate and that we never pump it out so that we can pollute Wilson Cove. This is absolutely ridiculous. Our septic system design and construction was approved with our facility renovation in 2010. After years of protests and delays, the septic design and other permitting issues were litigated in 2010. The Stamford Norwalk Superior Court ruled in our club favor and directed the zoning board to issue our renovation permit. The issue has already been litigated before a court, and she has lost that. She brings up decades-old issues. Our septic system works perfectly. We have never had a failure, and no wastewater has ever entered Wilson Cove. Contrary to what Ms. Jones states, we pump out regularly like every other facility with a septic system. We pumped out last year in 2020, and that was a COVID year when our our clubhouse was closed for the most part and twice in 2019. We usually pump out once before the season and once after the season. We pumped out already this year. Again, Ms. Jones' allegations regarding the septic are totally inaccurate. Lastly, I just want to mention the storm drain work. We don't believe that Wilson Point, this is the location of the storm drain work. We don't believe that Wilson Point did anything wrong, and their actions improved the road, solved a safety issue for freezing water, and at the same time did no damage to Long Island Sound. Nevertheless, the commission needs to know that this storm drain is not on the club property, and any associated piping does not run across or through our property. Ms. Jones has tried to combine items and attempt to paint a picture that implies broad wrongdoing and conspiracy theories between Norwalk Yacht Club and the Wilson Point Property Owners Association that is simply untrue. So thank you for bearing with me. There was a lot to go over. We've addressed the high points of what we think are the most significant false claims made to the commission. I could go on with more details as there's a lot to unpack from Ms. Jones' presentation and to parse it out into a response, but that would take over an hour. But I think you guys get the idea. Ms. Jones, our allegations are without merit, and she does not know anything about our best management practices for boat and float cleaning via scuba service, our oil water separator catch basin, nor our pump out procedures on our septic tank. She is also clearly unaware of the regulations and the fact that we use East Norwalk Blue to comply with our pump out requirements. Thank you for your time. Mr. Finn will now have a few closing remarks.
Thank you, Mike. I thought, so all of Ms. Jones's claims have been rebutted. And again, no evidence has she submitted, not one shred of evidence that there's any pollution actively happening at this time. And it's important to note that typically in these types of cases, when they're making claims that are scientifically based, there's expert witnesses that are retained by the complainant to back up their allegations with some degree of expertise, with some degree of evidence. And without that, these are spurious claims. They're not worthy of being investigated. Or again, if you feel that you want to have the waters tested, please, you're entitled to do that as she is. But without that, I submit to you that this really is a colossal waste of time. We're hearing the same claims before different commissions, and that enough is enough. I do want to thank you for your time. We appreciate it very much. And with that, I'll conclude. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I have one last thing to add. It's Mitch Pillay again. And that last item I'd like to just state is I've responded line by line to Ms. Jones's presentation. You all should have copies of that response. Please, I'd like that also read into the record for this evening's meeting.
So moved, Mr. Pulley.
Thank you.
So I have one question, if I could, to the Commodore and Councilor Finn. Would it be possible to provide the commission engineering certification documentation of that water reclamation system, that it is both adequate for oil water separation and for anti-fouling materials?
Yes, like I say, it was installed over 9 years ago. I'll see what we have on record. But again, we clean it out on a regular basis, and everything that's in there goes to the contaminated waste hauling people.
Thank you, Commodore. No further
Okay.
from me, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Thank you guys for your presentation. And you have something to say, Steve?
I do. So I would like to move that with a 2/3 vote of the commission, that we add water quality testing consideration for the WPPOA areas to the new business agenda for tonight.
Do I hear a second?
Joe raised his hand.
Oh, okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Anybody else for public comment? Let's have approval of the minutes, please.
You want a motion to accept the minutes?
Yes, please.
You have a motion to accept the minutes.
Second,
Second emotion?
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Treasurer's report. Do you have anything, Tom? I don't see Tom Matera here.
Yeah, I called finance today. They said there was no activity for the month of May, no deposits or invoices, no interest payments. So the balance effective today is $23,355.06.
Okay. All right, secretary's report. Steve?
No particular report.
No report, Pete.
Oh. Okay, committee reports. Health Department.
5.9 inches of rain fell in May, compares to 6.72 a year ago. The average over the years for May is 4.42 inches, brings the total rainfall for May 18.27 inches. There were 5 closures. The first one was on May 4th for 1.2 inches of rain, closed both the half-inch and the 1-inch areas. Second closure was on May 9th, just closed the half-inch area for 0.86 inches of rain. Third closure was on 5/28. That was a closure that closed both the half-inch and the 1-inch areas. The fourth closure was on May 29th, over 2 inches of rain fell. It closed all 3 areas, half-inch, 1-inch, and a 1.5-inch. And the last closure was on May 30th. We got over 1 inch of rain and it closed both the half-inch and the 1-inch areas. There was one notification of a bypass. Sewage treatment plant called us and said that the Karen Drive pump station leaked 400 gallons on sewage on May 24th. Aquaculture was notified and everything was repaired. That's the health department report.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, wastewater treatment plant, we probably don't have anyone here, so let's go water quality. Joe? You gotta unmute yourself, okay.
Yeah, I did. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Very quickly, we had an update on mitten crabs from Dick Harris, and they seem to be very well entrenched in the Housatonic River, so I would expect them, as time goes on, to move in our area. I just hope we do not see them in the Norwalk Harbor and in the Norwalk River and Silvermine River and 5 Mile River. We mentioned that the Norwalk River Watershed Initiative is starting to meet again. Their first meeting will be in June 9th, and it'll be via Zoom. If anybody wants to be a part of that, I can give you the contact information to become a part of it. And then we're going to try and make recommendations to the city via the Shellfish Commission as well as the Harbor Commission to have future discharges from private neighborhoods into Norwalk waters have approval from DPW, Harbor Commission, and Shellfish Commission, and also to recommend to the city to fund again low tide intern survey for discharge pipes into Norwalk waters. That has not been done since 1991. And with the storms we've had and the new construction and what we've seen with Wilson Point, it'll be important to know what new pipes are being discharged into the harbor. That's it. Thank you.
You're muted, Pete.
Does he, Steve, he needs a motion to accept the minutes. No, we accept the reports. Where's Pete?
You're muted, Pete.
He's working on it, I think.
I think he's playing with the grandchildren.
No, he's not. He's talking to us. Pete, you're muted. Take your mute off.
Okay, harbor management. We aren't finished yet, Joe. Harbor management
Want me to
is,
say something, Pete, or John, or John?
yeah. Your report on your meeting.
Well, it's a normal meeting. We're still waiting, pursuing the review of the DOT's project.
Yeah.
That's ongoing since January of 2015. And we have no additional information from Eversource. And we'll continue to do the best job we can to protect the harbor resources. And I think probably hopefully by the commission meeting this month, we will have the results of our turbidity analysis and a story map to present as to why it's important to manage the water quality impacts of the Walk Bridge project. And then we'll also have a presentation to make to the Norwalk River Watershed Initiative as well next week.
Okay, thanks,
I don't
Jeff.
know, John.
All right,
John,
make a motion to accept the committee reports.
Motion
make
to
a-
accept, motion to accept the committee reports.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
All right,
Aye, aye, aye. Okay. Old business. Oh, incidentally, I meant to say something. The Norwalk Police now, they didn't put their other boat in this year, the other rubber boat, because it's so shot, so they're using our Shellfish boat. Harbor Master boat, they're using that. So, which gets it to be used, and they said it's running real good now, so. But I want permission to bring it and have plugs changed and do a tune-up. So. We have
Make a
to-
motion to change the plugs and tune-up of the boat.
second,
Okay.
Need a
motion.
second.
Do I hear a second?
Second,
All in
Steve,
favor?
second.
all right,
Okay, all right, that's that. And, okay, old business. Got anything, Steve?
Yeah, sure. So under old business, I just wanted to mention that some couple years old business, we nominated a couple of sites for shellfish restoration, and 2 of the 3 have been now visited by the Sea Grant and aquaculture member who are chairing the shellfish restoration project. This does have visibility as high as the United States Department of Agriculture. And I would like to thank these agencies for these site visits. I thought they were productive. I'd like to thank the attendees and most especially Mr. Stedman for the presentation materials for both sites. I can tell you, and please anyone else speak to this, they were particularly interested in the restoring the southern point of Vets Park, which would be the holy grail for us.
Yes, I'd like to thank Jeff too for the presentation. Anything else, Steve?
I do. So we are friends with another shoreline association over at Pine Point. And the president there has indicated that it is their opinion that the 7 and 9 Nilkid Avenue project, which the Shellfish Commission disagreed with the movement of rocks at the site, that in fact that these rocks have been moved and that they have been piled up, and they feel that it is in violation of the deep permits, and they have gone to deep enforcement about this.
How about any new business?
Sure. So as a follow-up to our 2/3 vote, I would like to ask the commission to discuss the water testing for the Wilson Point area. I see Mitch is still on the call. We will do this from the intertidal zone at the outflows. That the protocols to be followed will be state mandated by the Bureau of Aquaculture, that there is a clear chain of custody from the site to the Milford Laboratory. And we'd certainly like to invite the association, if they would like to do replicate testing, that we would be more than happy to coordinate with them. In terms of timing, it would need to be on a Monday through Thursday. These are the days that the state laboratory accepts samples. It will have to be at a low tide and will have to be after a rainfall. So there are a few things that need to come together, but we would certainly like to work with the association should they like to do replicates that the state will administer. And that being said, I would like to put a motion on the floor such that that type of testing is completed for fecal coliforms on the Wilson Point periphery. And I'll put that out there in that form.
Steve, prior to your motion, Attorney Spar had his hand up. I don't know if anything needs to be discussed prior to that motion.
Oh, yeah, I mean, he's certainly welcome to speak. Jeff, you're, Mr. Spar, you're muted. There you go.
Yep, there I go. So hi, I apologize for being a little bit late. I tried to sneak, I snuck in mowing my lawn before the rain, so. I see Tom Closter was a little bit of a panic sending me an email. Hey, well, you're supposed to join a thing, but I had to finish the lawn. Anyhow, so no, I agree with what you're saying as far as the way you're going to conduct it. And of course, there's got to be some technical things, the tide and also the days of the week, etc. I want to make it clear to everybody that's listening already.
And if I may interrupt for a second, Jeff, if everyone other than Jeff could please mute, we're having some audio issues.
Okay. So yes, and so I wanted to make it clear, I've had some conversations and some communications with, not with Attorney Finn, but with Attorney Blank. I've also had communications with Mr. Pillay and Mr. Nagler, and I had assured them that though it would be nice to possibly come ashore, but that the testing that was going to be done was going to be done from the seaside. And I had also, Mr. Bartosz, you had told me that before any time there was going to be an entry on land, you would ask the landowner, and if they said no, it wasn't going to be like you were going to force your way. So I made those points clear to them, as you had made clear to me. Just technically speaking, also, we're talking about the water side, and everybody that's going to be on the Shellfish Commission is going to know that under the public trust doctrine, that the public owns up to the mean high water mark or has access to the mean high water mark, so that you can obviously do testing within the limits as allowed by law. I had sent to Mr. Bartosz and to Tom Closter and also to Mr. Johnson, while you guys were doing this, some proposed language that you might want to entertain as far as what the motion would be. But basically the language doesn't have to get into specifics, as far as how you're going to do it. But I thought that that you might consider a motion that you would conduct appropriate water and shoreline testing for water quality and contamination to the extent allowed by law. So by putting in your motion to the extent allowed by law, you're not defining what that testing would be, but you're also acknowledging that you're limited by what is allowed by law, which I think should be helpful to both sides. I mean, that is something that could be determined based on the facts. And then B would be based on the testing results, because once I think that you're going to want to move on here. So once you have the test, you're also going to want to take action. So I'm suggesting to you that you might also want to include in tonight's motion, not only the fact that you want to conduct the testing, but also a plan going forward. So you don't have to wait to for another meeting, and you won't have to wait for another motion. So you may want to put in B, based on testing results, pursue appropriate follow-up reporting actions or enforcement actions as needed to the extent provided for and allowed by law. So again, Attorney Finn has raised the question about what your jurisdiction in, whether it's just to report or whether you have independent enforcement action. So I would just put in there that you would say that based on the testing results, you would pursue the appropriate follow-up reporting and or enforcement actions as needed to the extent provided for and allowed by law. Just those would be two suggestions.
Well taken. So moved.
Okay, Steve, you want to make that motion?
I have.
Okay,
I'll second that motion.
okay, all in favor? Aye. Wave hands, you don't talk, huh?
So just.
Okay, so pass.
Just before we leave this topic, I just want to see if Mr. Pillay would like to coordinate replicate testing in the area. Is that something the association would like to work with us on?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. All right, so you'll hear from us with respect to that coordination. Thank you, Mr. Pillay.
You're welcome. Have a nice evening, John.
You too, sir.
Question, will you also be doing testing of the, the Wilson Cove is, a pretty large area. It's bounded by multiple neighborhoods and, several different boatyards. Will your testing be limited just to the Wilson area, or will it be all waters within Wilson Cove?
We'll be testing the outflows of all the areas.
Of all the areas?
Yes.
Okay.
What else did I want to say? No, that's about it. You can't just go to one manhole, this one outflow and this outflow. You have to go around, because if there is a problem, we got to find where it is. So, it could be you, could be here, could be another place, it's a big area. And that track hasn't really been tested. It's been tested, but not like usual. And we go by the state aquaculture's water test is what we go by, what their specs are. So, just to tell you, yeah, we don't do just one little area. We try to hit everything around that area, because can't prove anything by just going one place. All right, anything else? Okay, make a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
No, there's more
Oh.
business.
What?
We have Chairman Dr. Pinto, and still Mr. Stedman is here to help us with 3 items that were on the agenda for 68 Water, the bulkhead, perhaps 5 Decker and the COP, where Mr. Bajek is the agent, and 14 Shore Haven, a project of Mr. Hiltz, which sort of follows in line with similar projects that we've had immediately adjacent to that property. So if Mr. Stedman or Dr. Pinto would like to speak to perhaps 68 Water first. As a reminder to the commission, 68 Water Street is in the area of the proposed vessel relocation, and it is also the site, as far as we know, of the Eversource plans for the relocation of the high KV lines under Norwalk Harbor. So Jeff or John, please.
Well, Steve, we had, at our last meeting on May 26th, we had discussed all of those 3 projects. All 3 projects were considered pre-application for, as far as the commissions are concerned. And we have put together a preliminary consideration of what our response was at that meeting. And I did send those to you. If you'd like me to go through them, or would you want to go through them? You muted, Steve.
I have them here, John, but you're welcome to, please.
Well, like I said, the committee had agreed that the project at 68 Water Street could go forward with their application, but there's pending a number of issues that we required additional information for, which the commission had put together in a letter. It's a draft, as a matter of fact, because we still need to put a few other items on there. Several of the points that we had brought up is that the applicant's proposal overlaps, that is the applicant at 68 Water Street, that project overlaps with a proposal submitted by the Department of Transportation for relocating the excursion vessels. And the commission's requests additional information regarding what consortium agreements or what some agreements have been made among the adjacent property owners as well as with the DOT for use of these adjoining locations. So there's still a number of issues regarding that. As you recall, the commission had requested that the DOT alter their plans with regard to keeping the vessels, that's the maritime vessel and the Seaport Association vessel located between the two bridges, that is the Straffolino Bridge and the Walk Bridge, and that we requested, and again, based on studies, the Harbor Master and the Harbor Commission, as well as the Shellfish Commission, we had decided that perhaps a better location would be at the 7268 Water Street area. And the DOT went ahead and put together a plan. And their plan sort of overlaps now the new proposal that was submitted by the applicant at 68 Water Street. So we need to know what consortium, what agreements have been made between, certainly among the parties, and how this would be sort of handled with regard to the building, construction, and what agreements have been made for use of that property, that particular property. That's certainly unknown to us. And then, of course, the second point is that the Eversource issue with regard to the tunneling of those transmission lines goes under the property, goes underneath those the 68 Water Street and 72 Water Street property will be tunneled from those properties under the harbor and through the underneath the facility at the Vets Park, that is the visitors dock, et cetera. And so we need to know what the issues are with that. As far as right-of-way issues, what's going on with that project, because we haven't heard anything from Eversource regarding the use of that particular property for that particular reason. And again, so there's a lot of uncertainties as how this property is going to be used. And so this has to be worked out between the applicant and certainly the DOT and perhaps the adjoining owner. So there still is a lot of unanswered questions on that with regard to that property. I don't know, is there anything else, Jeff, that you can think of that we didn't discuss?
So to summarize it, there's all sorts of issues and unanswered questions about this project, but the commission was okay with it going ahead, the application being submitted to DEEP with the understanding that all these issues would be addressed during the review process, and we'd have an opportunity to continue to comment. The other thing John didn't mention is the violation for unauthorized work on this site that was identified by the Harbor Commission back in 1998. That's never been corrected. Now, DEEP made a statement in that from their perspective, it was whatever the violation was cleared up, but that was based on the assumption that the owner would do the work that DEEP previously permitted, which the owner never did. So now that permit that was issued some years ago is expired. So in effect, the violation still exists. So it's just a matter of fairness and principle as to how violations are corrected and when an applicant receives a notice that something is done. So that's another issue to be cleared up.
Well, that's one other point that we have to put in our draft letter to them, Jeff. Yes.
But the commission was okay with it going ahead and to DEEP as an application with the understanding that these questions would be addressed and resolved, including how this relates to what DOT is proposing and what Eversource is proposing. So you have the pre-application for the Shellfish Commission then I'm assuming.
We do, Chair. We do. So I'll just go ahead then and put a motion on the floor that will very closely mirror harbor management, in that the Norwalk Shellfish Commission has conducted a preliminary review of the application applicant's pre-application plans and finds that the applicant can move forward with the application to deep LWRD with the understanding that a number of issues still require resolution, including the overlap of plans at the site, and reserves the right to continue to review the applicant's proposal and provide additional comments at such time as it may be modified, additional information is provided, or the proposal is the subject of a public notice or hearing. You're muted, Pete.
Make a motion.
That was the motion.
His motion, second, I mean.
Second motion.
All in favor? Okay, passed.
The second item was
Can
5,
I just ask a question real quick?
please.
Do you need me
Yes.
anymore?
No,
No, I
Jeff,
don't
I
think
think
so.
you're
Not that
fine.
I know of.
Thank you.
Okay. I don't take it personally, but what I want to say is I'd be happy to work with you as this goes along. It's good, as the story continues, it's going to unfold page by page, and we're going to work on it paragraph by paragraph and paragraph by paragraph. I'm happy to help you guys as you go along, okay?
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, no
Jeff.
problem. And Tom Closter, thanks for all your service to the city.
Yes,
Thank you, Jeff.
All right, thanks, guys.
we're upset he's leaving.
Hi, Jeff.
We thought we had you back for a little while longer.
So 4-5 Decker, it was proposed as a COP by Mr. Bajek. And I just wanted to, and COPs are generally not reviewed by this commission. And I just wanted to ask the opinion of Chairman Dr. Pino and Mr. Stedman if they feel that the COP status of this was incorrect or not.
I'm sorry.
John, do you feel that this should have in fact been a COP based on earlier construction?
Well, at 5 Decker, there was no earlier construction. There was no construction that was done. They put in an application and their COP was approved, but they didn't build anything at that time.
And the first was an application or was just a COP? So it's a modification. It's a modification of something that
I
went
see
through
what
the
you're saying.
full
I have
permitting
to
process.
go back and look. I don't recall that. All I got from them, at least from the from them, was that the COP that was accepted was they accepted that application and that they hadn't gone forward to do anything with that.
Okay, so I mean, I'll just ask that we table this for the future, perhaps next month. And last is 14 Shore Haven. This also was distributed to the commissioners.
Right.
Any comments there, John?
Well, no, the same thing too, that we had passed a motion to allow the applicant to move forward with the application, again, with a few recommendations that we anticipate that the Shellfish Commission might have certainly comments with regard to its positioning and perhaps what was going on, as far as protecting shellfish resources with regard to the position of the dock and the ramp there, and that they certainly make comment to anything that you come up with regard to that application. Where was that? That was at
14 Shore Haven.
Right. I think I have that here.
We went out and looked at that one, didn't we, Steve?
No, I think that was 12, Pete. It was the neighbor.
Oh.
No, that was another one. Yeah. Let me see.
So this one's where?
It's Shore Haven Road, Peter.
Okay, yeah.
Shore Haven Road. I thought I had that here. It must have. Yeah, that's 14 Shore Haven Road. That was Mr. Hiltz's application that he had put in. And with regard to the placement of the dock and they have, we had indicated that the aluminum ramp and the dock, perhaps maybe require movement during the wintertime, and that the work can move forward basically with the application. That's basically what our comments were.
Okay, so it was pretty much.
We also put other comments in because there's going to be some watercraft that are used to do some repairs and build a construction, and that they consult the harbor master. These are some of our usual responses that we give.
Okay.
Do that.
So, I mean, I'll just move that the Shellfish Commission has no objection to this moving forward to the full application as well, with our standard language with respect to barge placement, with respect to winter removal, with respect to other deep residential dock guidelines, heights, areas of landing docks, floating docks, and 18-inch dock stops.
I mentioned it also too. There's one other point that was brought out that I forgot to mention here that was that we had put in our draft letter with regard to 5-decker, was that the littoral boundary rights were not indicated on the map, and that was the only other suggestion that we.
Okay, but well,
Yeah.
you guys will get a second bite at that.
Yes, yes.
So we do have a motion on the floor.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, anything else, Steve?
I do not. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay,
I want to say there was one other notice thing on the agenda, and I would like to thank Tom Closter for his decades of service to this commission and to the city of Norwalk. There isn't a better city father or mother than Tom, and not a better partner to work with respect to his professionalism, and also teaching new guys the ropes when I first came on. So thank you, Tom, and we wish you all the best of everything in the future, and we hope that you won't be a stranger.
yeah, Tom, and if we have a Christmas party this year, you're still invited.
Sounds good. Thank you, Steve, for the kind words.
You're the best, Tom.
Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Tom.
Mr. Stedman.
Who raised your hand? Jeff?
Jeff did, yeah.
Right, one comment I might make, if you don't mind, earlier in the meeting, you heard some statements about the authorities of the Shellfish Commission. And I would just say, from the perspective of the Harbor Management Commission and the Harbor Management Plan, that any efforts to diminish the Shellfish Commission's longstanding programs and initiatives to manage Norwalk Harbor's shellfish resources should be resisted. And because your programs have always been conducted in the public interest to manage shellfish resources and in coordination with state and federal agencies and also the Harbor Commission. But I just would resist any efforts to diminish that, to diminish your activities, especially how important they are in Norwalk Harbor. But that's just a personal statement based on what we heard earlier in the meeting.
I
Thank you.
agree. And if you read what the Shellfish Commission, when they were appointed, it states that we shall maintain and keep the waters clean for shellfish, to protect the shellfish. So
Well,
that's when
in charge of the shell fisheries implies that you manage the habitat and you address threats to the habitat. And one of the principal determinants is water quality.
right. So
More than
thank you,
issuing
Jeff.
permits.
Yes, thank you, Jeff. Okay, make a motion to adjourn, and our next meeting is going to be July 1st, same as water quality. So I'll make a motion.
Make a motion
Second.
to adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
All right.
Aye. Thank you, guys. It's been an interesting meeting, and I hope we get this Wilson Cove all straightened out and everything just flies right. The water test all good, and it's done. Okay. Talk to you
Thank you.
later.
See you later, Tommy. Thank you, Tom.
Bye,
Thank you.
Tom.
Bye, Tom. Thanks.